It's time for the swinging conclusion to Hairspray. And can you stick around for American Graffiti? Because I want to compare and contrast you.
Isn't Suzanne Summers in that?
Yes.
Well, I love her. She was in Serial Mom, one of my favorites.
But I want to compare your take on 1963 and 64 with George Lucas's take on 63 and 64. So we'll do that. We have a lot of fans in prison here at Joe Bob's Summer School. We have a whole part of the show called Joe Bob's Jailbreak where we read.
But it's not as much fun movies in prison anymore. It used to be on a reel. You'd go in, it was dark, you could pass drugs, you could have sex. Now they show it on video. It's not as good.
And you know what? The legislatures are trying to take away their cable. This is a pet peeve with me.
They don't have cable in any of the jails where I know.
They don't want them to have weights anymore, and they don't want to have cable.
And you can't smoke. And in another woman's jail I went in, you couldn't dye your hair, so everybody has the same length roots. That's really cruel and unusual.
We're on the same wavelength.
All right.
I know all these same prisons that you know.
And now, Joe Bob Summer School and American Graffiti on TNT.
Okay, the 60s civil rights statement, Hairspray, by the man who invented odorama. We're here in the home of John Waters in the film capital of the world, Baltimore, Maryland, for Cinema Studies 101 here on Joe Bob Summer School. And, John, I wanted to ask you, is that dance, the roach, a real dance, or did you make that up?
No, it's a real dance. First you squirt the bug spray, and then you squish the roach, and you squish the roach with the other foot, and then kill that roach. It was a real song. And the bug, you get a disease, and then you throw it to somebody else, and they catch the disease.
So the roach and the bug are both from 1963?
They're real dances. Yeah, we used to do them.
Okay. Our next flick is an early film of George Lucas's that takes place the same year as Hairspray, but first I want to let people know that next week we'll be back in the classroom for UFO Studies 666, where we'll be showing Mars Attacks featuring guest lecturer UFO expert Stanton Friedman. That's followed by the 1956 classic Forbidden Planet, and we'll be joined by cult heartthrob Anne Francis. Do you ever meet Anne Francis?
No, I haven't, but I like her, certainly, yeah.
She's great. She's had a whole second career now. She goes around... Well, she basically, it's the same career. She goes around promoting Forbidden Planet everywhere.
That's good. These young kids, they know everything about weird movies. That's very healthy.
Okay. And believe it or not, I have seen comparisons to you and George Lucas before.
You have? I've never seen that one.
Movie Line magazine once said, like George Lucas, the films of John Waters take place in a galaxy far, far away.
That's a good one. I've seen my films placed in foreign and video shops.
That's good. However, we're going to show Baltimore,
right?
You know. However, we're going to show George's pre-Star Wars flick, American Graffiti. It's the summer of 1962, and Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Cindy Williams, and a bunch of other folks you'll recognize.
Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers. They all, I think in her first role, they all cruise around Modesto, California, drag racing, making out, and listening to Wolfman Jack. And just like Hairspray was based on John Waters' youth, this is based on George Lucas's younger days. So, John, would you do me the favor of doing the drive-in totals for us?
Okay, we have no dead bodies, no breaths, 1 fist fight, 4 make-out sessions, 3 fender benders, 3 motor vehicle crash and burn with explosions. We call that a carbecue here. Water balloon to the face, axle ripping, cruising, well, I'll leave that one alone, pantsing. What's that mean?
That's ripping the pants off somebody.
Oh, that's called foreplay. Booze stealing, booze puking, one of my favorites, and hey, 4-star rating.
Okay, not a whole lot of numbers. I mean, kind of a soft movie by your standards.
Look at some of my old ones, would have gone off the puka chart. The puka meter would have been high.
The vomit meter, that's right. This is one of those coming-of-age type flicks. Check it out. We'll be back at the first break with film scholar John Waters, roll film. Did you talk about George Lucas in that filmmaking class you taught at the prisons?
No, because I wanted to show him films that were illegal for them to see.
What was the favorite film in prison?
I'm embarrassed to say this. The Champ, the remake.
That sickly, sentimental one?
And the one they hated the most, Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando. It really shocked me.
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and American Graffiti on TNT.
See, already there are many similarities between this movie and Hairspray. Like, they both take place in 1962, and there's some dancing in it. Can you think of any other resemblances, John?
Well, there's certainly love letters to their extreme youth, and extreme certainly is always what I try to honor in my movies. This was the first time you ever saw kids just driving around in cars. I saw men do it a lot in Baltimore, but that was for a whole different reason.
I understand. We're at the home of our cinema studies guest lecturer, filmmaker John Waters. And by the way, what's your opinion of Suzanne Summers? This was her first film.
Well, I love Suzanne Summers, you know. She went on to make all these insane television shows, you know, that weren't really like my movies. But that's why she had such a good sense of humor that she played herself in Serial Mom. And she was great to have on the set. Matter of fact, she got there and she said, "Am I playing Morgan Fairchild?" Which I thought was really funny. I'm a big fan of Suzanne Summers.
Well, my favorite Suzanne Summers vehicle is, of course, She's the Sheriff. Anyhow, let's get back to American Graffiti and come back and chat some more. You ever used the Thigh Master, John?
I haven't, but I have a signed one she gave me upstairs.
But you never used it?
I never used it.
Well, you're...
Because I want to keep it in the box where it's worth money.
And you're an ectomorph. You don't need the Thigh Master.
What's an ectodorph?
Maybe an endomorph. You're either an ectomorph or an endomorph. Or a mesomorph. But you don't need the Thigh Master. The bottom line is you don't need the
Okay, all right. I have the Butt Master, too. She gave me that one. There really is such a thing, for real. That was the sequel. I have them both upstairs.
Oh, we don't want to go there.
Winner.com/MonsterVision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and American Graffiti on TNT.
You know, there's hardly anybody in this movie who didn't go on to be a big star. Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, Cindy Williams, Harrison Ford. This is Paul Le Mat's second movie. He plays John Milner, the guy with the truck. And Charles Martin Smith, or Terry the Toad, is now a director. He did the famous Air Bud. Did you see Air Bud?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
I didn't either. It's Cinema Studies 101, and we're here with film professor John Waters. And I, of course, refer back to your prison class on filmmaking, calling you a film professor. Universal Studios almost didn't release American Graffiti when it was finished because they thought it was too murky looking, and then it was a smash, and it inspired Happy Days. And
did he get revenge on the studio executive?
Well, sort of, because it financed Star Wars, and he could do whatever he wanted to do. And Ron Howard made about $500 million.
I mean, that is revenge, But Ron Howard, you talked about, he went on, he produced Crybaby. He was one of the two producers of Crybaby at Imagine Films, So you never know where people are going to be intertwined.
No. How rich are you, John?
I'm a thousandaire.
Do you think anybody who gets to the point of being a household name can be wealthy?
Yeah, you can be a criminal and have not one penny and be a household word in America. Fame has nothing to do with money anymore in America. Notoriety and fame, it's all the same thing. Certainly, you can sometimes take that fame and make some kind of brand name, as you well know. And are you rich from this?
I'm a...
You're a thousandaire too, right?
I'm making in the high two figures now. No, I wouldn't. I would agree with you that notoriety and money have nothing to do with one another.
No, they certainly don't.
All right, let's continue with American Graffiti. Roll it. Compare and contrast. George Lucas used actors who were on their way to becoming stars, and you've revitalized the careers of actors whose stars have kind of faded, right?
Well, in this movie, certainly, yes. There were some,
like
but I had... Well, I had Ricky Lake, too, who was on her way up. I like him on the way up or the way down. I never can afford him at the top.
Kind of like minor league baseball.
I wouldn't know.
Candy Clark wants some brew, and if I were Charles Martin Smith, I'd go get her some. Candy Clark actually sounds like a John Waters name. That could be in one of your movies.
Or a stripper. I mean, I think of like Candy Bar.
Yeah. Did you never used her or worked with her in any of your movies?
No, I wonder where she is today.
I don't know. I think we tried to find her, but we couldn't find her. John Waters is our Cinema 101 guest lecturer, and even though this movie had a small budget and was shot in 28 days, it was a studio film produced by Francis Coppola, and you've done both studio movies and independent films. Which do you like better? Well, the money or the control?
Well, I like both. That's the problem. You know, basically, with the independent film and a studio film today, it's all the same. They make you test it. They go through the script. They give you notes. It's not so much different. The only real difference is if, like, a movie, if it costs $10 million, is a huge independent movie and a very cheap studio film. So basically, if it's a cheap studio film, you get better craft services, and your salary is better.
Craft services like the table with all the food on it, right?
Yeah.
And what are you working on now?
Well, I have a new movie. Well, two things. One, Female Trouble's coming out again, the movie I made many years ago. That's my favorite of my old movies.
A big re-release?
Yeah, and we've kind of been holding it back like Disney kept back Fantasia, you know, so that's coming. And then I'm
every
about
7
ready,
years?
Yeah. To do this new movie that's called Cecil B. Demented, which is about a lunatic film director who kidnaps a movie star, an A-list movie star, and forces her to be in his underground movie. So it's basically a comedy about teen terrorism against the movie business.
And then
that's coming up.
Ready to go?
No, I can't. It's close. So I don't want to. I don't like to talk about something before you do it. It's such bad luck.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to this movie then.
All right.
And I know you like to get creative with casting, so I think you should know this. Joey Buttafuoco is available for acting jobs.
Yeah.
Just
No
sign.
thanks.
No.
No.
Let me put another name in your noodle. Okay. Somehow I see the two of you working together. Tom Arnold.
No thanks. Although he's a good actor.
I think he is a good actor.
He can be a good actor. Yeah. I like Roseanne.
You would use Roseanne?
Roseanne would play, certainly, if we do the remake of Pink Flamingos, she has to be Edith. And when I did her show, she did Edith imitations really well, and she told me all her kids love her and yell out like to her, "We honor you, Queen Carlotta," because of Desperate Living. So I love Roseanne. Roseanne would be the one that would be.
So you think she would do it?
Yes, I do think she'd do it.
I do too. The famous liquor store scene in American Graffiti, performed by the great Charles Martin Smith as Terry the Toad. In my opinion, his is the best performance in this entire ensemble cast. And of course, that was Bo Hopkins as the sinister leader of the Pharaohs. We're studying the cinema out of the home of filmmaker John Waters. So this movie is set the same year as your movie, Hairspray, but your film is about the white culture becoming integrated through music, whereas this movie is also about music, but it doesn't have a single black person in it. What do you think of that?
Well, it's in California, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Modesto, California.
Yeah.
You
Are there any black people that live in Modesto, California?
Well, I was wondering that myself.
That's why Rodney King's jurors. I don't know. I mean, East Coast to me always. You know, I had somebody recently, a black guy, that said, "Where are all the black guys in your film?" I said, "Are you kidding? On Hairspray, we had a SAG reduction because we had so many local black actors in it." So certainly, but at the time, you know, it was very hard to make a white guy making a comedy about integration. It was very politically incorrect. No, nothing happened. It turned out fine. But before we made the movie, some people said, "How dare you?" and that kind of thing. So you never could tell in those days. Very touchy.
Yeah. I guess maybe there weren't a lot of black people in Modesto, California, but you and Barry Levinson are the big Baltimore boosters, I would say.
Certainly, and I like Barry's films very much, too. He makes movies about extreme people in Baltimore, too.
Yeah. Do you hate California?
No, not at all, no.
Because I'm thinking of moving to L.A.
If I lived there, I'd never make movies. If I lived there, I'd never make movies because they get used to seeing me there. They'd never give me the money to make them. I only come in 1 week a year, go to the meetings, and they think, well, we have to decide. But if they saw me at a party every week, they'd never let me. I like it there. You ever hear that country song like "Too Ugly for L.A., Too Stupid for New York"?
No, but I think I'd like it.
I mean, I like L.A. because everyone looks like porno stars, so I'm for that.
Okay. Well, maybe you can come to my yard sale before I go out there.
All right. What do you have for sale?
Well, I was probably anything you would buy, right? Because you seem to be quite a collector. I mean, you have these. The reason I ask you if you made a lot of money, I mean, you have these vintage Liberace. I would think a Liberace photograph like that would not be inexpensive.
Yeah, but I've had it for 30 years.
Oh, you've had it since before anybody knew who Liberace was?
Oh, everybody knew who Liberace was in the 50s. Are you kidding? He had a hit television show, right?
Yeah. Well, will you show me that famous electric chair from Female Trouble before I leave? I got to see that.
Yeah, it's right in the hall. I mean, I throw my coat on it. It's like, to me, I don't even notice I have it. I know a couple people that have electric chairs in their house. I'm not the only one.
Really?
I know 2 in L.A.
I have no friends with electric chairs.
You're not moving to L.A. yet. You will.
Good scene there where Paul Lamette and Mackenzie Phillips spray the other girl's car with shaving cream. It's not close-up zit popping, but we'll have to make do with it now. We're in Baltimore with our Cinema Studies 101 guest lecturer, filmmaker John Waters. So, John, I want to do a little free association.
Okay.
I'm going to say a name. You say whatever pops into your head, okay? Steven Spielberg.
Great auteur.
Ingmar Bergman.
Oh, the real puke king. He had a puke scene in every movie. That's who I copied.
Russ Meyer.
Certainly he makes industrials about breasts.
Ron Howard.
A wonderful producer and a very nice man.
Ted Bundy.
Probably the cutest serial killer America's had.
Julia Roberts.
I like her. She just made a film in Baltimore, and I've never met her before, but she has inspired a lot of bad surgery all over the world on lips because she has the real thing.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Certainly the best auteur of all, you know, somebody that took his image, made fun of it, and became a caricature of himself in the best possible way.
Okay, excellent. You're a type 17B personality.
What's that mean?
I don't know. I'm a 22G.
Okay.
I don't know what it means, but it kept me out of the war.
I know. I learned early never to say negative things about people because then you go to L.A. and sit next to them at a dinner party and they watched your show.
Oh, you're saying the answers would have been different if the camera wasn't rolling.
Not on those.
Okay. Some great names in this movie. The cop is named Holstein. The lecherous teacher is named Wolf. And what was Ron Howard saying about Cindy Williams watching her brother? I think we had a little TNT censorship there. Well, we're at filmmaker John Waters' house in Baltimore for our Cinema Studies 101 lecture, and I haven't asked you what some of your favorite movies are. Which are the movies that you watch over and over again?
Certainly The Bad Seed, because I wanted to be her as a child, you know, so I could say to people, give me those shoes and be a rotten little child. I used to watch this movie called Baxter, which is about a French movie about a killer dog. I like that a lot. Certainly The Wizard of Oz, but just the witch parts. I hate to see Dorothy go home. It's so depressing, black and white and those smelly animals. What else? I don't watch that many movies over. I like to watch new movies that I haven't seen.
Do you have any recent favorites?
Recent favorites? Well, let me think. What did I see this week? The South Park. I thought was a dirty kids movie, finally. It's a whole new genre. It's beginning of a new genre.
You know, every director is jumping on the horror wagon ever since, I guess Scream started this. Would you ever do a horror flick?
There are many critics who think all my films are horror flicks, in a way. I mean, certainly
I think they're
Divine Eating Dog Feces has horrified some people.
Well, yes, I would say many of your films are horrific, but I would like to see a really scary movie done by John Waters. Is that within the realm of possibility?
Certainly, yeah. It's a genre I've never really parodied, so yes.
All right. Well, let's get back to the pleasant coming-of-age flick, American Graffiti. Did you ever hang out with George Lucas?
Nope, I've never met him. I've driven by his ranch and wondered how you could break in.
How much of a weenie is Ron Howard for not going home with that cute waitress? It's Cinema Studies 101 here at Joe Bob Summer School, and we're on our field trip to Baltimore visiting John Waters, who besides making some of the craziest movies in history, also taught film at a maximum security prison, so he's an expert. Let's talk screenwriting.
All right.
You write all of your things,
yeah.
And where do you find inspiration, for lack of a better word?
By eavesdropping and spying on people every day, you know. I hear great conversations. I heard a woman recently say, she's a bitch. No, she's needy, she's nasty, she's a bitch, but that's who she is. And, you know, you can get great dialogue. Yeah, and you just have to watch people and read a million newspapers and magazines. I mean,
do you like the writing part of it?
Yeah, it's my favorite part. From then on, it's downhill. You got to make an idea real, which means you have to hire people. You have to make a fantasy become real, which we all know is hard to do.
Right. Any advice for, like, aspiring screenwriters?
Sure, sex and violence. That's what people want.
I agree. My kind of guy.
Yeah.
How about aspiring directors?
You know, always cut 10 more minutes out of your film than you think you should. You know, if they didn't stop me, all my movies would be 10 minutes long. Because all movies are too long. And there's no such thing as anything that's funny after 90 minutes.
Okay. Well, it's getting late, so let's get back to American Graffiti, which I think is a little bit longer than 90 minutes. But what about advice to aspiring professional ball players? Got any for them?
I don't know how to play baseball.
You don't have?
I forgot.
Did you play any
you know,
sport?
I don't. That's the one thing that's come with whatever success I have in my life. I don't ever have to think about that anymore.
The famous vomit scene with Terry the Toad. And the scene that George Lucas put back in the movie after Harrison Ford got famous, the one where he sings Some Enchanted Evening. I'm about to say goodnight to John Waters, and John, we give all our guest lecturers a book as a gift for doing the show, and so I got you one in honor of Cinema Studies 101. It's Roger Ebert's Pocket Video Guide. You take it with you when you go to the video store, and you can look up how many stars he gives the movie. So look up one of yours. Just try Pink Flamingos in there.
All right, yeah, I hope you pick one, because he's mean to me sometimes. I'm still nice to him. Yeah.
Well,
let's see here.
He put Pink Flamingos.
Let me look here. Let me see what he put in here.
I think it's in there.
Yes. No stars. See?
No,
No stars. That means, I guess, not so good. But that's pretty extreme. I bet
1997.
Because it was re-released again.
Oh, okay.
So no stars he gave it. I'd like to find one other movie in here that got no stars. I bet there isn't one.
No,
We are the worst film in this entire book. That's fine with me.
You and Roger Ebert, not Soul Brothers.
No, I know. Yeah, he's given me good reviews before and bad ones. You can't tell with him. You know, he gave me very bad ones on Serial Mom, 2 thumbs down, and I wanted to put that in the ads, and they wouldn't let me.
Okay, we're going to watch the end of the flick, and then I'm going to wrap things up here. John, do you mind if I just kind of crash here on your couch for tonight? This has been a long
No,
evening.
it's fine. I'm going out, but make yourself at home.
Okay, the conclusion to American Graffiti. Go. What about the camera crew? Can they stay here too?
The cute one.
So Richard Dreyfuss flies off to college to become George Lucas. Okay, I want to thank our guest lecturer, John Waters, for letting us come to his home in Baltimore to chat with him. And I also want to remind you that next week at Joe Bob Summer School, it's UFO Studies 666 with rocket scientist and ufologist Stanton T. Friedman telling us all about real flying saucers. And we'll be watching the all-star Tim Burton flick Mars Attacks, and then the sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet starring our second guest lecturer, Anne Francis. And that's it for me, Professor Joe Bob, reminding you that sometimes I wake up grumpy and other times I let her sleep. Did you guys hear the one about the guy who meets a girl at a bar and she invites him back to her place for the night? And when they get there, they go right into her bedroom, and the guy sees that the room is filled with stuffed animals. There are hundreds of them all over the place. Giant stuffed animals are on top of the wardrobe, and then large stuffed animals are on the bookshelf and the windowsill, and a lot of smaller stuffed animals are on the bottom shelf. So later that night, after they've had sex, he turns to her and he says, "So, how was I?" And the girl says, "Well, you can take anything from the bottom shelf." Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. And by the way, there was a great loss in the entertainment world today. The guy who wrote the song Hokey Pokey died. But what was really horrible was that they had trouble keeping his body in the casket. They put his left leg in, and, well, you know the rest.